Right. All right. Well, welcome back. We're gonna keep on rocking here. Just did a quick glance through to see kind of where people were at with the submission for the thing. So, how's it going? Okay, what you got?
I finally turned mine in.
Okay, nice.
Let me know if it's the right stuff.
It's just a PDF. It's just a certificate, right?
Oh no, I'm talking about the Wise project. I finally turned mine in.
Oh, okay, nice. Nice. Um, cool. All right. Well, um, yeah, it looks like there's still on that note there's a couple trailing people that still need to get that one in. Get that one in because we still have to get we're finishing because we're actually wrapping up this section today and we're already moving on. Like we're already wrapping up the Unity raw Unity and we're doing Unity audio moving on today. So things are moving fast. We're already because I'm trying to not stay exactly on the syllabus, but we're already about a week and a half behind on the syllabus right now. And if we want to get to all the cool stuff that we want to get to in the semester, we got to keep things moving here. So on that note, though, like I said, there's only a few submissions in for the Unity certification prep on the LinkedIn Learning thing. So what do you think so far? For those, have you guys gotten into it at all?
Yeah, I finished it. It's pretty cool. It's not as bad as Wise, I feel like. I think it's maybe a little easier to grasp in
Yeah,
some ways, but
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a whole nother platform we're trying to work on here. But yeah, it's like I mean, the thing is though, if you're comfortable with video games just in general, you kind of know what to expect, and so you just can kind of like know what. Also, well, I guess it's hard for me to see it from fresh eyes because I work in 3D a lot with like 3D not visuals but 3D like CAD design stuff. So I'm really I tend to work in 3D very much like all day every day with myself. So, but so I think for me moving into Unity was a fairly natural transition. But I mean, I feel like that. Well, I guess Colton, you went through it. So, what'd you think of that? What'd you think of that guy's videos?
I thought they're pretty good. They're really easy to follow, so I think that was a good way to learn, I think.
Yeah, cool. I think so too. I've watched a lot of different videos on a lot of different platforms trying to figure this stuff out, and most of them are either like way too advanced or way too beginner. And this one is a pretty good level. He walks you through in a fairly linear fashion that I think is pretty good. So so yeah, that thing is due to. Was it due yesterday or was it due last night or was it due today? It's due today, I think, right? Let me see when that was due. That one was due. Yep, that was due last night at midnight. So, yep. So get it because we already have the next one coming up. That's due not next class, but a week from today. So we're doing another Unity certification prep, and this one's just on audio. So the cool thing is though, like, okay, and I know Colton, just only because you spoke up that you did it. How long did it take you to get through the whole thing? Just curious.
It's like 2 hours, so
Did you do it in one sitting or did you break it up?
um, pretty much one sitting, kind of. You
Yeah.
you can put the videos on like 1.75 speed or whatever, so that'll.
Yep. That's cool. Yeah, and just like with the Wise stuff, like this Unity stuff, it's not something that you're going to retain. It's not. I think yeah, I think it's less confusing than the Wise stuff. Like Wise, for whatever reason, is such a foreign workflow from our audio production workflow typically, so that it's like it's such a different way of approaching audio that it's so many buttons and hierarchies and all that kind of stuff that it's fairly confusing. Once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad. But just like we've seen, like it takes a few passes through Wise to get kind of comfortable with the way it works. Um, Doing it with Unity, like I would say, I don't know. I like I've gone through a number of different Unity tutorials. I still feel like I'm a total novice, but I feel like I can get around pretty well, and that the overall concepts are pretty good. Just kind of going back to the core notion of this. Remember, we're not becoming Unity developers. Although, I mean, if you want to, that would be awesome. If you want to push forward and become like pretty solid with this Unity stuff, you will never ever go hungry if you can rock Unity pretty well. There's always Unity work out there. Everything like from like augmented reality. Like I mean, I'm not talking necessarily in just video games, but outside of video games, you have things like augmented reality, like product design. Like even for me, right? Like I just used it for this. I keep talking about it, but that audio, that big build that I'm doing up in Boulder right now, that 40.4 system, like I had to put the speakers in 3D. Um, like I had to figure out where they were because I did like 40 speakers I had to lay out in this space and figure out where they were going to be. So I whipped up a CAD model in Fusion 360 and was mucking around with it and got it all set up, got everything great. And then what I wanted was client sign off on this to go, okay, well, do they understand what I'm going to be doing in this place? So what I did is I just exported that as an FBX, dropped it in Unity, bam! All of a sudden they could walk around. They could even throw it on VR and they could look around in the space, or they could walk around as a first person in a video game style and look at the space and see, oh, that looks good. And so, for me, it was just a quick little like cool thing, but it worked out really well. It was actually one of these little things I didn't know I could do, and it turned out it was pretty simple. So what we want to do, but like I said, we're not becoming Unity developers. Like if you want to get into the coding and the C Sharp stuff, there's some pretty neat resources for learning C Sharp. So all the underlying code is in C Sharp, and we'll see just a snippet of it today, because we're gonna have to address one thing. But um, we're not really going to be doing any coding in this class, at least anything heavy. We're going to do a couple things coming up after this. So the plan is for like this last week was just raw Unity, just getting comfortable with the interface, getting comfortable with how it works, and just kind of understanding the workflow in Unity. And then what we're going to be doing this week is talking about audio in Unity. So just how do we do basic audio stuff like playing sounds, working with 3D sounds, like not so much triggering. We may look at one concept on how to like actually do that because you have to do code for that sort of stuff. So we're going to stay away from the coding for launching. That's what the programmers are for. They can do all that sort of stuff. But in terms of if you're brought in as an audio person onto a Unity only project where they're like don't want to use Wise. All the cool kids these days use Wise. So you basically, if you want to convince somebody to use Wise, you just have to show them all the games that have been done with Wise and all the awards they win and all that kind of stuff. And it's usually it's I won't say it's a tough sell, but in the few projects that I've dealt with, it's interesting. Like if you're in audio for video games, Wise is pretty much everywhere and everything. It's very ubiquitous. But if you're coming straight from the programming game side of things, on a small team, they don't know what Unity is. And so, Wise is. So you have to explain it to them, and but it's not a hard sell. But you just have to be like, yes, you can do so much more. It gets so much richer if we do this with Wise. But you maybe have some team that's like, nope, we don't want to use Wise at all. We only want to use Unity for our entire project. You're like, okay, so you have to become an audio person that works in Unity, and that's what we're going to work on this week a little bit. So to do that, well, real quick feedback. Anybody else? So I kept asking Colton. Anybody else get that completed? Like who else completed the certification thing? Get the little PDF.
I did too.
Yeah. What do you think?
And I did mine in like 2 sittings, I guess. Kind of just like split it up. Did like parts like 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4. And I don't know, I felt like it was like pretty easy to get through. I didn't really have to go back and like try to reteach myself things. Like once you see it, it kind of makes sense, like where you're supposed to look for certain things and what you want to do.
Yeah. And did anybody run into any snags, like any technical snags that hung them up?
The like files that he gave us on the LinkedIn thing, I couldn't get them into the actual little file viewer. I don't know what was up with that.
Yeah. I'll address a little bit of that today too. I tend to not use any of the assets that they give typically. I find it's just easier just to, I know it's weird importing assets from other projects, and I agree. But you were able to get through everything. And also on this note, the stuff that we're going to be doing this week as well, it goes beyond audio. It's audio and special effects. So we're going to be doing a lot of visual stuff too. It's not necessarily critical to us as audio people to understand this stuff, but it's cool. It doesn't hurt to know more about how the visual side of stuff works. So we're going to go a little above and beyond what's asked of us as audio people. But on this one, like coming up. Well, actually, let me pull it up. So let's take a look at it here. So if we share computer settings. So here's what I have posted under modules. So under modules, here's what it is. Unity Cert. So this is the one we did last time, the Unity Cert Prep Fundamentals. We're going to do, actually I said it says unit, but it's supposed to be Unity. This one's Unity Cert Prep Audio and Effects. So click on that. Let's go pop this into a new window. That's what it is right here. All right, so he's going to walk you through this like intro thing here. And then we have audio assets and basics, soundscapes, working with audio. And then this one last one right here. So this all makes a lot of sense to the stuff that we're typically working with. But then it's got particle system and effects. This one's way outside of our typical world of like understanding. Like we don't usually work with particle effects, but it's pretty badass. Might as well learn it. So you're gonna have to do the same thing for this one right here. So that's the link is provided right back here. Oh, it's supposed to open up a new page. Let me edit this one. Load a new tab. There we go. So this one should open up in a new page and it should take you right over here. So your job is to just get this certificate just like this one I did here. Download, save, open. Yay, got this. So this one's about 1 hour and 55 minutes, so it's 2 hours long, more or less. It takes you a little bit longer though. This one's got a couple snags in it, but for the most part it makes sense. And it follows a lot of the same kind of thinking as the audio bus workflow does in Wwise. It's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some of the basics in this thing and also how to overcome a couple of the major snags that you'll run into. I haven't done this. I've gone through, just kind of glanced at this one. I did it like over the summer, like it's back in July. So I haven't looked at this for a while. So I'm a little rusty with this stuff. But like the particle systems and effects, I can't remember. I think you have to download and install this one. But the truth is, I mean, if you're really paying attention with all this stuff, you can do these quizzes. I mean, they're only 4 questions, right? You can do these quizzes without ever even opening up Unity if you just like really, really, really paid attention. You're not going to get a lot out of it, but at least you could get by. So even if you get stuck on some of this stuff and you don't really want to be doing all the controls and particle systems and all that stuff, there are 6 questions on here. You can at least get through this enough to answer the questions to get your certificate and call it good. But it is kind of fun. It is kind of neat to see how the particle systems work in these things, and just as a general workflow, it's just kind of cool to get a vibe on how these systems work. So I'm going to kind of just recap a little bit of this stuff here on this first. I'm going to kind of go through this first stuff today, this bit right here, because there's a couple things that, like I said, we'll get a couple gotchas with this whole thing. So let's do it. So what we want to do is I'm going to start up Unity, just create a new one. Oh, actually, I'll stop it. If you decide that you want to use the exercise files, so I downloaded the exercise files. These ones are kind of big. So the exercise files, we've got 2 things. We've got one that's 1.6 gigs, and the other one's 1.8 gigs. So I've downloaded those, but if you decide you want to use his scenes, actually, okay, I'll show you how to do that. So on downloads, so this is the 2 right here, FX1, FX2. Unzipped, this is it right here, FX1, FX2. Go in here. Once you unzip it, so then I've got this one. Go in here. So it starts on 2.1, 2.4, 3.1, and these are the example files. So if I double click on this one, you have to unzip it. It's another zip file inside of there. So I unzipped this one. It's called start, and we've got this one right here. If I wanted to use this example file that he has set up right here, what I would have to do is go under in here. I could say I want to add a project, and if I go to like Unity 2.1 start, and this is my folder right here, right? So I'm going to say select folder, because this right here is, if you look at the assets, library, logs, packages, project settings, this right here is my Unity project folder. It doesn't, like, I guess I can maybe do it. I don't know if I could do it from up one folder here if I hit start. Let me try hitting start. Cool. Yeah, it does. It works. So what it did, it says start. It says, this is 2018.3.6 F1. So if I wanted to, my camera is all funky. Cool. um, that basically it's telling me that I need to use Unity version 2018.3.6.1. Let me stop my video and see if I can get it to go fix. Whatever. I'm inverted. I'm just gonna stop my video because that's annoying. Okay. Um, that basically, if you want to use their projects, you have to install 2018.3.6.f1, and that's what you can go through and do that if you really want to do that. I like to, for me personally, I want to go through and try to get this thing to be done with the most modern version of it, because chances are if you're working with a project, it's going to be the most modern version of it. So what I'm going to do is not do that. I'm just going to work straight up by itself. So I'm going to create a new one. Let's just do this one. Let's call this I want this one to be back on my normal project folder, which is storage, Unity projects, select folder. Cool. So create a basic project. Give it a second. Okay, so I've got my basic Unity project set up here, and one of the things that they're going to ask of you in this Unity project is to use this thing called standard assets. So Unity comes with this. This is so weird not having. Let me see if I can get my video to work. Let me see if I can get my. I'll stop my share for a second. I want to see if I can get my video fixed. It's really annoying. It feels weird to not have it. Videos, settings. There it goes. Cool. I don't know. It's something. Oh, I think my camera is just is screwed up. I get this like $30 webcam. It's pretty sweet. Okay. There we go. Okay, so with this, there's this thing called standard assets, and basically it's in the package manager. If we or asset store, if we search online, pull it up. So what you're gonna want to do is what's called standard assets. Come on. And it's right here. It's this one right here. It's just basically standard assets for Unity. So this says Unity 2018.4, so it's a little bit older, but we can get it to work. We can kind of get it to work. There's some hoops you have to jump through here. But what this is it's a package that has, so mine's already included, so I already have it in here. So once I have it, why is my asset store floating around? There we go. Once I have it in there, then it shows up in my package manager here. So if I look under, not in project, but my assets, and I'm going to look at standard assets. X16. Standard assets. 1.1.6. I'm going to import this thing. This one takes a little while. It's huge. It was originally... Okay, so what it does is if I look through this thing is massive because it includes all sorts of crazy stuff. Things like particles, and it includes a lot of
Ooh,
things.
go back to Navy Dark Smooth. What was that?
Go back to what?
Navy Dark Smooth. What is that?
It's a material. Yeah. So that's yeah. So if you want to add that to like a texture, so it'll add that into your materials right here. So nice. Yeah. So but we have things like menus, models, sprites. It comes with way too much stuff than what you probably really need. But some of the stuff that we really care, because all these scenes, all this stuff. But what I found, like a lot of times it's difficult to just extract the thing that you think you need. So for right now, I'm just going to do the entire project because it's just easier for right now. We don't need to use all of this stuff, but as you get better at it, you can start to pick and pull, because what we want to do is we just want to get our first person and third person character systems out of these things. So it just goes on and on and on and on. So I'm just going to say import all, and it's going to go. It's going to take a little while. Yeah, I'll just let it do its thing. But standard assets is really useful because when you want to create, like, say, a third person, when you just want to create a quick scene really quick, they give you a bunch of stuff. I think actually Unreal does a better job of this. Like, because the problem is this, like, if I want a first person shooter camera controller, I have to like comb through all this stuff to get it out of here. Or if I want to do a third person, whereas if you're in Unreal, it's just like ridiculously simple. So I've gone through this a few times with the standard assets and try to get just the things I need out of it, but I inevitably don't grab all the like all the extra little things that you need. So it's kind of annoying. But they've actually got this thing. Oh, I can't scroll right now. There's a first person character camera controller that you can download that we're actually going to use, and it's actually pretty good. Cool. Okay, so when I just did that in my project, let's go back to my scene here. That I've already got some in my console. I've already got some errors right here. So this is a problem. So, and if you haven't used Unity much yet, so anytime you see a red thing right here, it means it's got a compiler error, meaning it's not going to be able to play. The yellow stuff are warnings. It can usually get through past that, and it'll tell it tells it the action that it took. But the console is really important to tell you what's wrong in your system, what's wrong with your project, so you can go fix it. So that's what we're going to look at how to do here. So with my standard assets here, sorry, I got to move my window. You guys are all. I like to have mine small. That's how I usually do mine. Okay, so if I go to, so I have my two things. I have sample scenes and standard assets here. So I go to my standard scenes right here. I can go to scene. So inside of there, I have scenes, and I have a third person. Let's see, where's my third person? Is it not in there? Oh, character first, third person. This is the one we're going to use, and so this is the one he uses in the project or in the tutorial right here. So character third person. So if I double click on this one right here, bring it in, and we have our scene. And you can, if you, so I'm using just a standard 3-button mouse right here. So if I have it right clicked, by right clicking you can look around, but you can also use WASD to fly around in typical fashion. And then also if you hit shift WASD, it moves really fast. So I can move around, and then Q and R move up and down. So Q is down, R is up. So you can use your typical kind of WASD controllers if you want to. All right. Cool. So there's my kind of basic third-person character. Weird looking dude. Cool. So now the thing is, with this third-person thing, I should be able to just press play. It says I got compiler errors that need to be fixed where I can go in play mode. So this is the one that snags a lot of people, and it took me a long time to figure this one out, and I am not a coder in this regard. So if we look at our console again, we'll see that we have a bunch of these things here. So I'm gonna clear this out, and it kept these two right here. Whoops. So these two are the ones that are snagging me up, that won't allow me to play. So this is the one, and I'm gonna do a quick little write-up on this thing here, but this is really, really important that you pay attention to this. So this is what we want to do here under this to fix this error. I'm gonna double click on it, and it's gonna open up Visual Studio so I can look at the code that's the problem. Oh, whatever. Okay. So what it's telling me, and we have to look at the error that's throwing, and let's move this. Oh, come on. It says standard assets force reset error. GUI texture is obsolete. GUI texture has been removed. Use UI.image instead. So if we look over here, it says GUI texture. That's the one that says it's obsolete. So it says to use UI.image instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and do UI.image instead. Oops, not enter. There we go. Now, there's a problem with that though. That's true that's what it's supposed to use, but we're using also a different library that's not included in this business up here. So we have to add one more line that it doesn't tell you that you have to do it here. You have to use using Unity engine.ui. And that, so what happens here is we want to use this Unity engine.ui as a library. And by using the .ui means I don't need to use this UI dot right here. And it should turn green. Let's see if that works. I'm gonna hit Control S just to see if it goes away. Unity engine, something might be a little funky here. I'll run through this a couple times. Let's see if this worked. Okay, it did. So I'm gonna do the same thing for this one and watch very carefully. I'll also do the write-up on this, but watch very carefully as I do this. So it says, GUI text is obsolete. GUI text has been removed. Use UI.text instead. So double click on it. And it brings me right to the line that's screwed up, which is nice. And so it says, use UI.text instead. So right here, GUI text, don't use this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, instead of, basically, I can just use the word text, right? So I'm just going to use text, and up to here, I'm going to go using Unity engine.ui. And with this, you got to make sure you have a semicolon at the end.
So you don't have to answer this, but why does that happen?
So it's just basically they've changed. Well, this is one of the problems. They're always changing stuff, and I'm sure there's an improvement reason for doing it that I don't understand behind the scenes. That's something that by consolidating these libraries and making them more efficient somehow. But this business of changing this to, where was my line that I just changed? Is it, which line was that? Up. Not this one, but it was the UI text. Which one was that? Where's text in here?
It's that one that your mouse is hovering over.
Oh.
The one with the cam switch button.
Yeah, got it. Cool. Basically, it's they're updating their library somehow, some way, but I don't know why. I stumbled upon this one in some weird ass forum a while back, and basically, I think, well, actually, let's try this. I'm gonna try, instead of using this one right here. Actually, let's. So in here you can comment out by double slashes, and let's try this one. I don't know if it'll let me do it. Let's try that. See if that'll let me. See if that works. And let me close that out and see if it fixed it. If it doesn't, we know how to fix it.
I'm just like more or less
Nope.
curious why it's deeming something obsolete if it's in your workflow, like if it's in your.
So
if it's in
because
your
this
code,
one,
like,
because
why is it
this was
said
written in,
that?
because it was written in this asset pack was written in 2018, and
I see.
so they make stuff go obsolete with that. Oh man, I screwed that one up. I might have to redo this whole thing. So that's the problem, is I don't know how to fix stuff big time. By, let's see if I can find that one. Let's see if that was this. Was that the same one I was working in? Gotta look closely. No, this is not that one. So I screwed up that one. Basically I just botched that other project, and in doing so, it created a lot more problems. I shouldn't have done it. Let's see. That sucks. I may have to rebuild this whole project. This is the problem. This is where I suck, because I don't know how to undo stuff like this. That sucks. Because I was just wanted to test that one thing that I fixed. Let's see. Which one was that? Consistency. Nope. All right. So I'm just gonna have to create a new one just because I don't know how to fix that. That sucks. So I'll do it the way I know how to do it. I just do some experimenting with that one. Yeah, I don't care about that. All right. So let's do this again real quick. It's not that quick. what is your guys? This, I feel like my computer's running really slow right now. I don't feel like it should be taking this long for a basic blank project right here. Package manager, my assets. Standard assets, import. Oh, we'll get to walk through this again. So I'll say import, takes a minute, and we'll get to walk through this process one more time. So I guess if you use it with Unity 2018.4, it would just work and shouldn't have any problems with issues, but this one does, which is just annoying. And there's all sorts of scenes and stuff, and it's actually pretty cool to like poke around with it, but you have to do a lot of trouble. Unless you're using 2018.4, you're going to run into a lot of like compatibility issues, which, I mean, it may be worth it just to go down or to have also 2018.4 installed just for this. So if you want to make your life easier, you could probably just install 2018.4 and just running this whole tutorial using just that would be fine. But all right, cool. Let's go into project, sample scenes, third person character. Cool. So again, if I try and press play, it won't let me because I have to fix this in here. So I'm going to go back into this one. And get out of here. So I'm going to do using Unity Engine. .ui. And when I do that, all I have to do is here is just say I'm supposed to use just UI image, which is just image. If I use it, because I'm using the .ui up top, I just have to say image. Save it. Cool. That fixed that one. And this one, so I have that force reset, and now this one here says I'm supposed to use GUI text, use UI.text instead. So I'm going to do the same thing up here, using the engine UI, and let's say just UI text. Okay, so then instead over here, I just use the word text. It says to use UI.text, but this says I'm UI.text over here, so cool. Hit Control S, go back over here, recompiles it. So don't do what I did before. This one should work right here. So let's just see if that plays. Cool. There we go. So now I have my third person player. It's not very fast, but it works. Jump. Yay. So just got my typical third person type of thing, but there's no sound. So that is essentially how by using standard assets. And so in the movie or in the videos, he's going to ask you to use this scene right here. So that scene right there is, and you can poke around if you want to open up some of the other scenes. Like, let's go in here. So if we go to sample scenes, there's other ones like scenes. Let's see. I haven't even tried some of these other ones, like first person. I haven't seen what that one is. I think that car one is the car. Actually, let's look at the car one. Yeah, there's that car one that was in the other scene that he was using. Let's see if that one plays. Yep, so this one just plays. Cool. So you can open up different scenes, but you may have to do some amounts of troubleshooting to get those in there. So third person's working just fine for us though. And let's get a third person controller. Cool. So that's our, oops. Cool. So that's our third person thing. So that's just getting into the standard assets. You're not gonna have to do any kind of modding or anything like that. We are gonna start adding some other tools in there. So let's take a look at a couple things here. If we want to bring in some audio files. So if you want to bring, well, let's just take a look at audio files. Merge into new, merge to, oops, I don't know what I just did, but that's okay. It was doing something behind the scenes there on a different project. That's okay. So in this scene right here, it doesn't really have any audio. So let's take a look at what audio we can use. And they use this kind of cool little trick. T:, an audio clip. Is that what it was supposed to be? I thought it was T. Yeah, is that? Oh, we have to have lowercase. So these are some of the audio clips that are in the project right here. So we have the acceleration. Actually, if we just heard that acceleration from the car right there. Sorry, I can't see. Hang on, I gotta turn on my second monitor. Your guys' floating heads are all in my screen, and I can't get to my menus because you're all there. Bigger. Cool. Actually, while we're here, I'm gonna do attendance real quick. Cool. And let me save that. That's you guys all. Attendance save. Cool. All right. So if I press play, I want to hear acceleration. So that's from that car scene that we were just playing a second ago. It's the idling. And we can see some interesting stuff about it. So it's PCM 44.1 mono, and it's about 1.5 seconds long. So you can just loop that one right there, and it would actually probably work pretty well. Not for this scene right here, but we have some other stuff up here. So this, we can kind of recognize some of this stuff, this carryover from Wwise. So we have the load tech compressed in memory. What this does is it basically it keeps it compressed, then it loads it in memory compressed, then when it's called upon to play it. So say we're doing like a footstep or a gunshot. What it's going to do is it's going to play it, and it's going to decompress it and play it every time it's fired. So the nice thing is though, it's kept nice and small. So right now it's set at PCM. So well, let's just say if I have acceleration. So acceleration right here is if it's a PCM, if I turn this to Vorbis and I bring this size down to 4.6 for instance, it's going to do compressed in memory. So it's going to be, let's do apply. So it went from 129 kilobytes down to 9.6 kilobytes. So it's a ratio, it's a 7% of the original size. So it's much, much, much smaller right there. So the cool thing is what that does is that keeps your file size way small and your overall memory. So unfortunately with Unreal compared to say Wwise, so there's no well, at least that I know of, no global audio management system. So if you're given an audio budget or a budget of how much memory you're allowed to use, it's a lot harder to do it here because you have to go into every single individual effect and do this. Well, this is the default one for all effects. Well, no, actually, so it's just for that one sound effect right there. But this is really annoying because you have to do this for every single sound effect that you have. And if you have thousands of these things, it's going to be a real pain in the ass. And you can also do it for specific platforms. So in this case, on my computer right now, I have Mac, and so yeah, Mac PC Linux standalone, and then I also have WebGL. So if I want this to be different for desktop as I do for WebGL, then I could set those settings separately. So it's going to so when I compile the game, it's going to compile them differently for different platforms right there. So in this case, I'm just going to use the default one right here. But compressed memory means it stays compressed, and every time you press play, it uncompresses it, plays it, and then gets rid of it. Uncompresses it, plays it, gets rid of it. So we have a couple other options here. Decompress on load. So what it's going to do there is it's going to when you're not playing the game, it's compressed. When you open up the level, it decompresses it, and so that it's going to basically be able to play it faster. So it's going to take up more memory during gameplay, but it's going to use less CPU. So it's kind of up to you to decide like what's going to be the more important bit here. And then this one last one that we've seen before is streaming. We've seen this one before. So streaming means it doesn't even load it into memory. It plays it directly from the hard disk. And that's going to be really useful for stuff like just like before with really long stuff that doesn't need to be played instantaneously. So you would not do load from disk if it's going to be something that needs to be called very quickly. So things like footsteps, sound effects, gunshots, that's a bad idea to do from streaming from disk. You'd want to do stuff like music or ambience or the things that are really long playing in the background that are going to be like, maybe it's like a 2 or 3 minute clip that's going to eat up just a ton of memory. You might as well just stream that from disk. So in this, you do streaming from disk for that. So I'm going to leave compressed memory for right now. That's going to be the most common one that you use. If you're working with this one right here. So preload audio data, yeah. Don't really worry about that. So we also have force to mono. So if you have stereo effects, like stereo sounds that are going to be in 3-dimensional panning, you're going to want those usually to be in mono, because it doesn't make sense if I have, say, a water fountain over here. Whatever, apply, that's fine. So say I created a water fountain sound over here, whatever. Let's just do propeller engine. Let's drag that in and bring that over. So if I had this, so this is my audio source right here. If I had this as a water fountain, for instance, and I went out, I field recorded, went out, did my field recording, got myself a water fountain that sounds freaking fantastic. It doesn't make sense to have a stereo recording in this, so that basically, if my character is running around, it's going to be doing the 3D panning done in here. So we don't want to use stereo effects. So it would make sense to do something like on which one is that with this propeller engine? Yeah, propeller engine. That I would say force to mono. The problem with that is that it's going to force this thing to be mono, but it's already a stereo track. This one's already a mono, so it doesn't matter. But if I force this thing to mono, it's going to get better point source localization. It's going to sound better, but it's also going to sit in memory at twice as big as it needs to be. So you should probably upstream from this, like when you're working in your DAW, you should be exporting everything to mono correctly out of there. The only things that really need to be in stereo are going to be things like music, I guess. Music could probably be the only thing that's going to be in stereo. Everything else is going to be probably mono. Sound effects are almost always mono. Or maybe if you have like for that car one, if you have a car interior, something that's going to sound like you're inside of an interior, you're going to make it like from the left and right, so you want it to sound like it's rumbling inside the car. Then that would be a case where you do something in stereo. But for the most part, you want to be mono. So you really don't need to check this one right here very much. So load in background, that's fine. It's going to load it in the background, I guess. And then Amazonic. So we'll talk more about Amazonic stuff later, but that's if you're doing spatial stuff, like spatial tracks. But we don't have that. Well, we're not going to deal with that right now. So apply, that's fine, whatever. So now if I press play, or actually let me click on this one right here, and we'll see some of the settings that we've seen before, kind of that look like in Wwise. So, actually, we should start with, let's see, the audio listener business. So in a scene, you can only ever have, like, I guess we call them emitters and listeners, or sources and listeners. So an emitter is a sound source, and a listener is like, so this is like a speaker, and this is like a microphone. So on the character, we want to say we can only have one listener per scene. So that's going to be what your headphones are hearing. It's like microphone in the scene, and your headphones are hearing that. So this was especially kind of funky because, well, where is the audio listener right now? So generally speaking, if you create a scene, a general scene, it's going to already automatically. Do I have my sample scene in here? Let's get rid of this. If I go back to my just general my scenes right here, my sample scene. Save, that's fine. And if I go to my camera, this is my super basic scene right here. By default, it puts an audio listener on that thing right there. So what that means, whatever the camera is seeing, that's where the microphone position is. And that makes a lot of sense because you want to see and hear from the same position as if you were kind of you are the camera. So that's where you want to be positioned. And so therefore we should put an audio listener on there. When we go back to the third person, it's a little bit weirder. Let's go scenes, third person. Back in here. So with our third person, in this case, we have our camera. So we have our cameras right here. So our main camera is right here, and our third person is right there. So right now we have the camera has the audio listener. So that means that if I walk by this sound over here, it's going to be from the perspective of the camera, not from the audio perspective of the person. So that, I mean, sometimes that makes sense. Do you want it to be from the character? Do you want to hear from the character's position, or do you in third person, or do you want to hear from the camera's position? So right now it's listening from the camera's position, and that's fine. But what if we wanted to go? If we want to do it from the character's position, because it kind of makes sense that you should listen from the character's position. If we go under cameras right here, so it's under main camera, we can see that it has like on here we have our audio listener. So what I want to do is just disable that one or remove it. And I want to add that to the third person instead. So I'm going to go to the bottom, add component, audio listener. And now I'm going to be listening from the perspective of the character, not from the camera. And that kind of makes sense. So, but just the key thing here is you can only ever have one audio listener in a scene. So it's just important that you make sure that you don't have more than one of those. It'll probably cause a compiler error and won't work. All right. Okay, so now we have our sound source. So I've got this in here. What was that? The propeller sound. Let's just press play. See if we can hear this. Well, actually, let's click on this thing for a second. So with this one right here, we're set this thing, and I want to set this to spatial blend. It's at 2D, and if you remember with Wwise, we can do the same thing, 2D and 3D. So 2D means you can hear it from anywhere, and 3D means it's going to be using the spatial characteristics of this thing. So I'm going to leave it on 2D and just press play and see if we hear the thing. Yep. Oops. I didn't loop the thing. I gotta loop this thing. So it plays on awake and loops. So this means it's gonna just start playing this thing as soon as it goes, and it's gonna just loop and just keep looping this thing forever. So in this case, we're gonna have our airplane. Were you hearing that sound, by the way? Could you hear the airplane sound? Okay. I wasn't sure if it was working. All right, so press play, and now we'll hear that airplane sound. It's over here somewhere, but okay. So now that's how you basically add it. So you wouldn't do that normally for sound effects. What you normally use 2D for is going to be stuff like narration, like voiceover, if there's a narrator, or music in the scene, or like GUI, like menu items, that sort of bleeps and bloops, that sort of stuff. That's what you're going to keep in the 2D realm. A lot of the other stuff you want to be, or also if you're doing like a side scroller, right? Like a two-dimensional, like a 2D game, usually you're going to have 2D audio with that. You don't usually do 3D audio with 2D games, though you can do that. In fact, I was just rereading the making of Ori and the Will of the Wisp sound, and which is a great game, super fun. It's a 2D side scroller, but they use 3D audio.
Favorite game,
yeah,
2020.
It is so good. So, but they use 3D audio with a 2D side scroller, which is kind of unusual. But if you've played the game, it's pretty cool. It's 2D, but it's really 3D. It just happens to be a side scroller. So, but there's some really cool articles on the sound design for that game. So in this case, now I'm going to turn this thing instead. I'm going to turn this into 3D, and let's just press play on this thing. Let me move my scroll. Eric, your friend works on. Sorry, I wasn't looking at that. He worked on Ori and the Will of the Wisp. I'm curious. Dude, that game is freaking awesome. The levels, like,
Yeah, the level design with the music and the art is like easily some of the best like 2D scrolling I've ever played
I
in
know.
my entire life.
it is. I think it was on sale just recently on Steam for like.
I think it
25
still is. I think it's only like $10 right now.
What?
And it's like super cheap. It's like so worth it. And
Yeah.
like just like the amount of power that you feel near the end of that game when you're just like suited the fuck up is like the best thing
I
ever.
haven't finished it, so like I'm still probably only a third maybe through the game right now. So because I'm playing like trying to play like 3 different games at once, and so like I was just chip away at each one for a little while. But that's the one I'm hooked on right now, and I really want to get back. Just the levels are just so pretty, and like the I don't know, it's really cool, and the music is just phenomenal. So play it if it's that cheap on Steam right now, go buy it. It's that good. It's a really good game. Cool. So what we want to do now though is we want to turn this thing into a 3-dimensional thing. So just pressing play on this thing right now. Let's see if it works. So I'm gonna put my headphones in so I can hear stereo. We even got a little Doppler going on in there too. So it does work, even though it's invisible. It might make sense for me to attach this to an object. So let's just create a whatever, a cube, and throw it. Instead attach the sound propeller engine into the cube. Make that a child of that, and let's just make this kind of on there. Cool. So now we know kind of where that sound should be coming from. So if I press play, we can hear it. You guys hearing that Doppler shift when I run towards it and run away from it? You can hear it pitch up and pitch down just a little bit. So it's got some Doppler built into it right there. So if I click on that sound and we look at the 3D sound settings right here, so with that 3D sound enabled right there, so we have the reverb zone, stereo pan. So if I want to pan this left and the right for whatever reason, and we can pitch this thing up and down, and we also have a little bit of volume control with this thing right here, so I can bring the gain down here. And we also have priority. Remember, we had the same thing with priority with Wwise, where basically we have we have virtual sounds and we have real voices, and we can prioritize what we want to be for sure in the level and what we don't. Because if we're trying to deal with like 30, whatever, 100 sounds in the level, you want to make sure that some things are always going to play and some things are not, because some things get cut off. When we have too many sounds playing, it cuts them off. And so we have a limited number of real voices, and that really, because increasing, what you don't want is like 1,000 monsters in the background all going at the same time. So what that was going to do is at a certain point, it will turn those off. It'll only play the most prioritized 32 of those sounds. So things like music and voice, that's cool. But when you have like monster sounds, maybe some of those can get cut off as they go. So right here, what we have is our attenuation curve. So how it's going to sound when we're next to this thing. So if I press play and watch this thing, as I get farther away, you can see that as I get further away, this is where I am on the attenuation curve right now. So I'm at about point 0.002 or something like that for my level. But I mean, I'm pretty far away from that. That seems kind of crazy. I don't think I really need to have that there all the time. So, I mean, maybe if you do, if it's a key part, maybe it's like, some person you're trying to rescue, or it's supposed to be some secret thing or a monster you're supposed to find, or a car or something. Maybe you want to leave that in there just quiet so that it's always visible or audible. But you may want to go through and actually get rid of some of that. So what we want to do is, in this case, well, I can do max distance, and so this distance is kind of arbitrary. Units in Unity can be whatever you want them to be, right? So one unit in Unity could be 1 meter. But if you're playing an ant game, maybe you're playing a game as an insect, and 1 unit is 1 millimeter instead, because the scale of everything is way down. So in games, everything is done in units, but those units don't have they don't have necessarily a real world connection scale. Though, if it's going to be something like human scale, I mean, if you're working in a space game where you have to jump across the galaxy, you don't want units to be in meters, because then all of a sudden you want it to be more like in light years, right? Because it's like you got to go move so far that if you did it in meters, if you did units in meters, it would just be way too big. So, but generally when you're working on human scale type stuff, they generally say 1 unit equals 1 meter, more or less. So what this means is that this is 500 meters away. That's my attenuation curve, more or less. I don't know if that's exactly the scale of what this one is, but that's generally how it's going to work. So if I want to make this thing, so if it's airplane, you can actually hear pretty far away. But if I did something, just move this down to 100. So at 100 is where it's going to go. And after 100, it's going to drop off and it won't exist anymore. So if I'm more than 100 meters away from this sound, it should drop off. Well, actually, let's just make this extreme. Let's just go down to 10 for right now and see if it works. Oh, actually, when I'm on that, you can actually see the attenuation curve. So this sphere right here shows when I'm outside of this sphere, I no longer hear that. So if I want to adjust this thing right here, so that's logarithmic roll-off right there. There's the Doppler level, so that's how much we want to do it. We don't want to. I felt like even what we had there might have been even a little too much Doppler. Dude, I hate it. When games use Doppler, it's okay to use it just a little bit, but I find that if you use it just any more than just a hair, it feels so contrived and so weird. It draws your attention to it. So I don't like that thing here. So I can choose here. I can choose logarithmic or linear, and I can adjust the curve on this thing. Okay, let's try playing that one right there. So that means right now I shouldn't be able to hear it when I press play, and then as soon as I press play, I should get inside this curve and be able to hear the thing. Cool. The reason, well, especially with this one, the Doppler, I have a hard time with this one because in real life you can run fast enough that you would hear Doppler shifting, but it's unlikely. I hear like when I ride my bike and I walk, ride by a place where I have playing music, you can certainly hear the music pitch shift as you ride away from it. But it's when you're walking as a human on human speed, perceiving Doppler shift as a function of you running towards it and away from it. I don't know. I would say the Doppler level, I would pull that down quite a bit just because I don't think that's a good thing right there. And in this case, I'm on 3D, so I'm trying to think of a case where you'd want a blend between 2D and 3D. To me, it's 2D or 3D, but maybe there's a case for something like that. I can't think of it. Okay. What else do I have in my discussion here? Yeah. Oh, okay. One more thing. So control S this thing. The other thing is if we want to control global stuff. So under our edit here, we have our project settings, and under our project settings right here, we have our kind of our global project settings right here. So you can do default speaker type. So if you want to do some ProLogic DTS, that's surround, old school like analog surround. ProLogic, yeah, Dolby, yeah, that's a weird one. We'll just leave it on stereo right here, but if you want to do 5.1, you could. So these are global volumes. So this is like a multiplication scale. So this is a scale of 1. Doppler factor, yeah. So I would actually probably do a global one right here of something like 0.2. I don't really want to hear that one. Best performance. Oh, so here's the max of virtual voices. So here's the virtual voices. So virtual voices, if you recall, back when we were doing in Wwise, what it does is it's actually performing all of the management, playing and doing all these things on the audio. If you have any processing, it's keeping track of distance, pitch, shifting, and all this sort of stuff that's going on with that particular sound, but it's not actually playing out of the speakers. The only time it comes out of the speakers are the max real voices right here. So it's going to be playing a max of 32 real voices. And to be honest, yeah, 32 real voices is probably a pretty good threshold, depending on the game. But your brain can't track and organize more than, I don't know how many sounds it is at a time, but it's not, tracking and understanding 32 sounds at a time is pretty tough. So I've not played with this ambisonic decoder and spatializer stuff before. I want to get more into that sort of thing. And then I guess disable Unity Audio. I don't know. I don't know if this is something like if you're using Wwise, if you click this, if Wwise still works, or if this just turns off all the audio. I've not played with that at all. So I wouldn't mess with anything else really. So default system sample rate, it just puts 0. I think what it does is it just basically, if you do 0, it follows what the system setting is, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. Does it hover? Yeah. Strange. I haven't played with any of that stuff. So anyway, in your project settings here, this is going to be your audio settings in here, and that's going to get you off to the races. So remember, you have sources and you have to have a single listener. But now we also want to have things like being able to do mixers. So in our assets, I'm going to create. Oh, I'll show you. Want to show you one more thing. So this is that basically kind of completes the first video series that they do, and then we go to the next chapter. So if we want to, they're going to ask you to import. Basically, I'm just going to keep using this scene right here. In his videos, he opens up lesson 301, and you're like, well, it's just easier. Like nothing that they do in those scenes, I can't just do in here. So what I'm going to do in this scene is I'm just going to import the assets that they told us to. So in here, let's see, 3.1. So this is the project. So 3.1. If I start on 3.1, start, and if I look in the assets folder here, they have the sample scene, Metal Amazing Music. They have all this stuff right here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to import from that assets from that one here into my scene. So in fact, I think I can just drag it in. If I just drag this in, it's going to import it. And I can even do it with the other one, the other folder that I had there. So sounds, what's in sounds here. Those are all the same ones, right? Yep. So I already have those ones right here. So all I needed here was this Metal Mayhem pack. So if I want to bring this in, like what they did in their project, I'm gonna get rid of my. Let's delete that. Let's delete my cube. And it deleted the sound that goes with it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, let's hear some of these tracks. Got some heaviness going on there. Actually, I'm going to attach it to two objects here. 3D object. Let's do sphere. Bring it down a bit. Cool. I'm going to do this audio on that one. So now it's on my sphere. I have my audio. I want to loop this thing, play on wake, and let's just call this, call it good. I'm going to add another one. Let's duplicate this one. This one I'm going to change it to, in the video he's using footsteps. So I'm going to do T:, oops, T:, audio clips, footsteps, this one, no, let's do, yeah, it's just footstep 1, let's hear that. Cool. So I'm going to do footstep 1 on, oops, if I click on that sphere, the audio, got track 1. I want to replace that with footstep 1. So this is going to be my whatever metal song. This is my footstep, and I want those both to repeat. So it's on loop, on play and wake, and they're both 2D. So it's if I press play. Oops, ripping your heads off, right? Oh, come on, so slow. So what we need to do is we need to turn that one down. We have a couple different options. So that with that metal track right there, we can either turn it down right here. So we have our volume. If we bring that one way down, press play. Whoops, did I click on that wrong? It's the audio one, right? That's coming out ripping loud for me. Well, rather than that, let's set up mixers. So I want to set up a mixer in my here. So this is really poorly organized, but let's just create an audio mixer real quick. So if I do an audio mixer, I'll call this one default. I'll just call it Merkle, so I know which one this one is. And we can go in and we can start adding sounds to this. So I'm going to add my sphere over here, this metal track. I'm going to add this to Merkle Master. So now I have. I'm on pause right now. So I can bring gain on this one down. Press play. Screwing something up. It's coming out, I mean, it's ripping loud. Yeah, I don't know why it's coming out. It's coming out so freaking loud. It's not assigning right now. Let's see, 2D. This is on that audio track, right? I feel like I have something routed wrong. Let's just turn this one off for a second, just to make sure. Let's hear that footstep one. So I'm going to create. So what it does is basically I've created. But what I did, it's strange though the way that the routing works. So you can route it through mixers, or you don't have to route it through mixers. It can go straight just to the master bus if you want it to. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to pass it through this fader here, and so I've created one right here. Why is it inactive? That seems like that's what's wrong here. Something is inactive. Let me think about that for a second. Why would that be inactive? Yeah, it's working. Well, let me just press play. So we should just hear footsteps at this point. So turn that one off. Yeah, it's coming. It's playing. It's not passing it through the mixer, or it's like it's bypassing all of my stuff. Let me think. What that would be.
Is it because of like right in that little what is it, like that game object where it says which track it is under it? It says the audio output, like right under audio clip, the output. Does that have to do with it?
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. But did I not? I thought I had that selected before. I guess I didn't. So, but I don't know why it's telling me that it's inactive right here on this one. Let's try it again. I don't know why it's not. Why do I keep pressing pause? I don't know why it's telling me that it's inactive right there. It's strange. Because my attenuation doesn't seem to be working either. Something's funky. Like we shouldn't even really hear this thing. I didn't attach anything to like audio listener. Yeah. Okay, that's good. So there's no settings on these, so I just don't know. I've got a listener and a player, but for whatever reason it's telling me that it's not. Do I have to say which output this goes to? Pitch, attenuation. But we can do, okay, well, I'm gonna have to move on for right now. Like I'm gonna have you take a whack at it and see if you can get it to work, because I don't know like what I'm doing wrong right now off the top of my head. But when we have our mixer here, it's pretty neat. So you got your mixer, you can add just like we did before. So the weird thing is that you can assign it to a mixer, but you don't have to. So if I sign it to right now, I signed it that track was supposed to go to the master track right here. So that's like the master output that you're supposed to be able to control, but it wasn't allowing me to do that. And then what we can also do is then if we want to add more like no, sorry, it's not in the mixer, but if I want to add more groups, so if I can add something right here, this is a sub of that one, and so I could say something like this one be music. I could do another one be SFX. Oops, not a. I don't know. Let's delete that one. I'm gonna go back to here, add. So what I would want to do is I want to assign this thing right here to be underneath the sub, so that we go under music. I wonder if there's no apply that I have to hit, right? Yeah, it's just, so this is going under music, and then I would want, say this one, these footsteps to go under sound effects. Cool. And let's see if I can try one more time, see if we can get this thing to work. Oops. So I have it bypassed somewhere. Like somehow it's bypassing my outputs, and I don't know why. So I'll have to muck around with that for a little bit, see if I can figure that out. But we should be able to like adjust our mix right here. So you can create some fairly complex mixes, and you can do aux sends and so you have some effects built into it. So if you want to do some parametric EQ, normalized distortion, reverb, that sort of stuff, you can actually add it in here, and you can control this stuff by in-game like parameters, just like we did RTPCs. with game syncs in Wise, but you have to do it with code. Like it's a little, I won't say it's tricky, but it's tough because with this you can certainly the tools have gotten a million times better with Unity in the more recent versions of Unity for the audio stuff. It used to be really, really difficult. They didn't have mixers or any of that kind of stuff, so it's gotten a lot better, but it's still pretty tough. So we want to use Wise for the most part if we can, but yeah. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to, like if you haven't, you need to get way in on. You need to get further along with the last one because this one's going up live. It's due a week from today. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a whack at this thing and see how far you can get with it. Because what we're going to do next class is we're going to talk about a little more how we're going to get the audio control. We're gonna expand on this beyond what the video does. So get started on the video. So we're gonna end right now, and then if you have some time today, get cracking on this certification. So the audio certification and effects. This one's shorter than the last one. You can blast through this one probably in one sitting, but 2 sittings is probably good. I haven't done the effects one for a while back. You might have to jump through some hoops to get it to import that level. It's from the asset store. So I'll go through it and do it as well because I haven't done that one since I did it actually originally with the particle effects. The particle effects, you don't really need to do all of it. You can watch it, just kind of watch it and soak it in, and then you can get the quiz from there. So you don't actually have to go through and do everything in there, but at least see it because it's pretty cool. But yeah, so I guess is there any questions on what I'm asking of you? Sweet. Okay. So sorry about blasting you guys heads off with some metal there, but you're like rock through this thing, and starting next week, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start working with Unity and Wise and integrating the two of those together. And that's if we can get to that point, that's where the money is. That's where the good stuff is, and that's where we can really start putting the stuff to work. So that's what we're going to work on next week, starting next week. But for this week, start cranking on this stuff, and we'll revisit this on Wednesday and work on any snags, issues, and kind of explore some other ways to use this stuff. So cool. All right, my friends, I'll stick around if anybody has any questions, but I will see you guys on the flip side. Ciao.
Hey Jeff, I was just curious. I might have missed something, but I was wondering why you were attaching sounds to the objects, like to the spheres. Why were you putting
just so that I could see, just so if I was doing 3D, so I could see where they were, because otherwise they're just ghosts. Like there's no reason for that, other than I just was doing that just as a, so they just existed. So they just didn't exist in ether, but they could just exist in the ether just as well, especially for what we're doing. Yeah, there's no reason to attach them to that. So
I didn't know if I was wondering because I was like, well, why wouldn't the footsteps be on the character or on...
No? Well, yes. If I wanted to do that, I should have it on, but I don't have any kind of footstep controller to start and stop the sound. So yes, it would be, and that's actually right. So the 2D sounds, when we talk about 2D versus 3D, footsteps would also be 2-dimensional sound. But yes, those should be attached. The sound source should be attached to the character for footsteps for sure. The only reason I was using footsteps was because that's what the video does, is they use the footsteps in the metal just so you can hear the 2 different kinds of sounds working over the top of each other. But you're right. Good observation. It would normally be attached to the character for sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was just wondering.
Cool. Good catch.
I'm out of here.
Ciao.
I'll see you Wednesday. Thanks.
Cool.
Jeff.
I'll see you, dude.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Ciao.